You want clients, but you don't want to advertise yourself everywhere. You don't want to be that person who's always self-promoting, always selling in public, always performing. I absolutely get it. I'm a practicing CPA and I'm more introverted than most, even by accounting standards, which is saying a lot. And the just put yourself out there advice never worked for me. It always felt like I was being asked to become someone I'm not. But here's what I learned. There's another way to get visible on LinkedIn, a way to get in front of the right people without shamelessly promoting your services everywhere, without the cringe, without the performance. And that's what I want to talk about today. You've probably had your LinkedIn profile for at least a decade, and yet the number of times you've actually posted something, you can probably count that on one hand. And there's a good chance one of those was the obligatory "I've started a new position" post when you started with your current firm. Or if you're like me, you might even have clicked "Do not send" when LinkedIn asked if you wanted to notify your network. But it's not just that you haven't posted, it's the almost actions. You see something in your feed, maybe it's a colleague sharing something useful, someone announcing a win, an interesting discussion, and you want to engage. Maybe you want to say thanks, this was helpful. Maybe you want to congratulate them. Maybe you just want to add something to the conversation. You know what you want to say. In your head, it makes sense. It actually sounds pretty smart. But then you start typing, and somehow it doesn't translate. The words don't come out right. It doesn't quite capture what you mean. It sounds clunky or even a bit dumb, or it's just taking too long, or you start wondering why you're even bothering. So you delete it. You tell yourself it's not good enough, and you go back to scrolling. Or sometimes the stakes feel too high for a public comment. So you think, okay, I'll just send them a private message instead. But even that, even a message no one else will ever see, you start drafting it and the same thing happens. You want to look friendly but not unprofessional. You want to appear human but not overshare details or seem creepy. After a few tries, it still doesn't quite look right. So you delete it and move on. And no one will ever know you were there. And after enough of these moments, you stop trying. You don't feel like you have anything worth saying, nothing that feels worthy of putting out there. So you stay quiet and you stay invisible. LinkedIn for most of us feels like a spectator sport. We're lurking in the shadows, looking over someone else's shoulder, watching what everyone else is doing out there in the professional world. They're posting, they're commenting, they're getting engagement, and you're just observing. And here's the painful part. You feel like you've built relationships. You feel caught up with your network. You know what they're up to. You've read their posts. You've seen their wins. You might even feel a genuine connection to some of them. But it's one way. You built the relationship from your side, knowing full well that no one in your network has any idea that you're reading their stuff, following along, catching up with their lives. Because you haven't posted, you haven't commented, you haven't sent the message you wanted to. And when you think about it, you might as well be a ghost with a profile. And then you close the app. And LinkedIn feels like a lot of things all at once: a waste of time, a welcome distraction, an artificial sense of connection. You feel like you've done something, but you haven't really done anything. And you think, when is this ever going to get me new clients? When is LinkedIn going to start working for me? And the answer is, it's not. Because in this session, just like every other session, you didn't post anything. You didn't comment on anything. Fine, you might have worked up the courage and sent a random connection request or two, but overall, you just consumed. You drank from the LinkedIn fire hose again and came away with nothing. And the worst part, you know this. You know it every single time you close the app. You know this is not working. Emotionally, you're drained. Financially, you're no closer to getting more clients. In fact, you might even be a little further behind because now you have actual client work waiting on your desk that you neglected while you were scrolling. Here's the thing. Everything I just described, that's the default experience for millions of professionals on LinkedIn around the world. Yes, highly educated, highly competent, excellent at what they do, and yet stuck in the exact same pattern. This is not an indictment of your character. This is how the platform is designed to work. LinkedIn's feed is ridiculously good at capturing your attention. It's designed that way. The platform profits when you stay on, when you scroll, when you consume. The algorithm rewards you for scrolling, not for creating. You're not weak. It's just that you're no match for the teams of world-class engineers and behavioral psychologists in Silicon Valley who make it their mission to make our social media platforms as addictive as possible. We're all using a system that was engineered to keep us consuming. If you look at the stats, only around 3% of LinkedIn users regularly post. The other 97% of us just consume. And once you understand how the system actually works, you start to see how to use it to your advantage and to get what you're actually here for, which is new clients. So if you're anything like most accountants, analytical, thoughtful, not exactly rushing to put yourself out there, chances are you're somewhere in the 97%. Welcome to the club. Feel free to grab a chair right next to me. But here's the painful irony. As you're scrolling your feed, every time you stop on another accountant's post, read it, linger on it for a few seconds, maybe even check the comments, you're telling LinkedIn, this is good stuff. And you're helping it reach more people. You're building their visibility while doing nothing for your own. And most of what you're consuming, yep, other accountants, your ideal clients, are having conversations on LinkedIn you're not even seeing. And here's what many people don't realize. LinkedIn is a ranking machine, not just search results, everything. Your feed, which posts are shown, which comments load, which profiles appear, it's constantly deciding who's visible and who's buried. It works just like Google. First result gets the click. By page 2, you might as well not exist. And it's not linear. It follows a power law distribution. The most visible in your accountant in your niche doesn't just get more opportunities. They capture the lion's share. Number 2 gets a fraction. Number 3, even less. By number 10, invisible. And it compounds. Every post they make, every comment, every connection, the algorithm learns this person is active in this space and keeps putting them in front of more people. All the visibility, all the inbound inquiries, all the I found you on LinkedIn conversations, they flow to that tiny group of producers. Everyone else watches. And right now, in your niche, someone less qualified than you is becoming the known expert. Not because they're better, because they showed up. Now, the typical advice on LinkedIn is basically just post, just put yourself out there, just be yourself. And if you're anything like me, that advice is less than helpful because the gap between do nothing and just put yourself out there on LinkedIn feels enormous. It almost feels like they're asking you to flip a switch and all of a sudden be comfortable with self-promotion. and to feel good about selling in public. So that's what got me obsessed with this question. Is there a way to systematically get results on LinkedIn that doesn't require you to get a personality transplant? A way that works for people who would much prefer just to hunker down and do the work rather than talk about the work. Not hacking the algorithm, not causing any identity crises, just a first principles approach. And here's what nobody tells you. You don't have to start with posting. There's a step before that, a lower stakes step, a much less scary step, something that lets you produce, lets you put something in front of other real people without venturing too far outside your comfort zone. Something that doesn't ask you to be someone you're not. Let's remember why we're even on LinkedIn in the first place. It's not to collect connections. It's not to read other people's life updates. It's not even really to learn, since there are better places for that. It's to grow our firms, to attract new clients. And to do that, people need to know you exist. They need to start recognizing your name. They need to see you before they can ever start to know, like, and trust you. And here's the brutal truth. That requires output. You need to produce something and put it out into the world. Something that gets in front of the eyeballs of your ideal clients. Not just consuming and reading, not just scrolling. But here's the important part. You don't need to leap from consumer to content creator overnight. And in fact, you probably shouldn't. You just need to take one tiny step along the spectrum from pure consumer towards the producer side. And there are ways to do this in the most effective and least uncomfortable way possible. The strategy is commenting, but not just any commenting, strategic, targeted commenting with a specific purpose. Let me explain why this works. Posting is like walking into an empty room and hoping people show up. Commenting is like joining a conversation that's already happening with an audience that's already there. You're borrowing the audience that someone else took years to build. And something subtle happens when you comment on a trusted voice in your niche. Their authority transfers to you. Their followers don't see you as a random accountant. They see you as someone worth engaging with their trusted source. It's like being introduced at a party by the host versus crashing uninvited. One strategic comment can reach more ideal clients than 100 cold connection requests. Now, here's what I mean by strategic. If you comment on random posts from random people, who sees it? More random people. People who will never become clients. And that's not going to move the needle. But if you comment thoughtfully on posts from people your ideal clients already follow and trust, now you're showing up in front of the right eyeballs, and you're joining a conversation that matters. That's the difference between activity and strategy. Think about any Facebook group you're in. Within days, you know who the regulars are and who is adding value, not because they announce themselves, but because they add value through their comments. And here's what it looks like practically. You log into LinkedIn, you do 1 or 2 targeted actions. You comment on a post from someone your ideal clients follow. Then you log out and you get on with your day. Get in, get out, get visible. So, if you want to make this work, there are really 3 things that you need to figure out. First, who to comment on. You need to find the people in your niche who already have the attention of your ideal clients, the thought leaders, the influencers, the people your prospects are already following. Second, what to comment. And this is important. Not great post, not thanks for sharing, but something that actually adds value. Something that makes people think, hmm, that's a good point. Who is this person? Third, how to do this without turning LinkedIn into another time sink. Because the whole point is to get in, do a few targeted things, and get out, not to spend hours scrolling again. These are solvable problems, and I'll be getting into the specifics in future videos. So here's where I'll leave you. I'm not asking you to become a thought leader or an influencer overnight. I'm not even asking you to pretend to be more extroverted than you naturally are. You just have to shift, even slightly, from pure consumer to producer. And commenting is the lowest stakes, highest leverage way to do that. Find accounts that matter to your ideal clients, see what they're posting. Try to add something to the conversation. Bonus points if you can be helpful. Do it consistently and watch what happens. Now, I'm still figuring things out, but I know this much. Lurking isn't getting you any new clients, and there's a better way. Get in, get out, get visible. And hey, if you are a lurker like me and you made it this far without engaging, consider this your low stakes moment. Drop a comment. Let me know if this was helpful. Consider it practice. I'll be going deeper on the tactical side in future videos. Thanks for watching.